Greetings and salutations. This is Imperator Vespasian bringing you our Exalted Chariot. The first probably of many, depending on how well it plays. This is an addition to our unhallowed Chaos Space Marine army. If you can hear a loud droning noise other than my voice, that will be the Royal Air Force, those magnificent men in their flying machines who seem to enjoy flying over our house. So you're going to hear a lot of that, just ignore it. Right, so we have the Exalted Chariot, which is a Slaaneshic war engine. Slaanesh doesn't have a huge amount of this sort of thing. The Khorne are the best. If you want to go for demon-based engines, Khorne have loads, and the Sidekick has quite a few. This, however, is Slaanesh, so we'll just deal with this for now. So this is the model itself. We have 4 Seekers with some nice spiky bits on the harnesses, with 2 ridden by Demonettes. We also have a Demonette, I would assume, running the first 2 horses. Seekers. Then we have the Demoness on the back, who is the commander of the Chariot and the one who does all the lashing with the whips and stuff. And she's also detachable. I put her on that little sort of spindly base, so you can't really tell when it's based. And that is so it can be stored with much more ease, because it is quite a big model. I'll give you a top-down view. It's quite a large model. I didn't like the way it stuck out over the edge of the base, so that's the base underneath, and I've added the edges to it to give it a bit more shape. So that's the model, and that's the overview of it around. Nice spiky bits on the back so you can trample Imperial Guard and Orcs and stuff like that. That's quite cool. I like that. So there it is. And as it's such a big model, I didn't want to put it in one of my large packing cases, so I wanted to put it in with the normal boxes, and so I did it so the top was detachable, which enables me to store it with much more ease. But that's just a concern for packaging away, that's all. Right, so it has Sizing Impact as a special skill. Now, Sizing Impact is when charging, anything within 1 inch gains a mortal wound on 5+. So once you've done your charge, anything around it gets a 5+. Gets a mortal wound and a 5+. That's pretty good, especially if you're going into a large unit of troops. So I'm thinking fighting Khorne, that would be useful. You have the Lashes of Torment, which I've discussed in another video, which are these things here. They're quite useful. They're an assault weapon, does d6 attacks. Not very strong, doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does d6 attacks. So it's the equivalent of d6 bolters firing within 6 inches. So that's okay. And it's from the edge of the base, so it's from the edge of the model, really. Then you have Piercing Claws, which let's have a look. Yeah, the Piercing Claws and Lashing Tongues, both of which are attacks. So let's have a look. You've got the lashing. You've got 8 attacks from the Lashing Tongues. That's, I would assume, the front of the vehicle. So you get 8 automatic attacks with the Lashing Tongues at the front. But the attacks for the rest of them, for the Piercing Claws, is dependent on how many wounds you've got. So if you've got, I'll just show you the card for it. This is a quick reference card. You have this box here, and on it you have the amount of wounds that the thing has, and then what its movement is reduced to, and then its BS and its attacks, or its weapon skill, sorry, and its attacks. So its attacks go down the more damage it gets. So that's the Piercing Claws. They get 8 attacks when it's at full strength. When it's reduced to 5 wounds, it gets 6 attacks. When it's reduced to 1 or 2 wounds, it only gets 4 attacks. Presumably because the Demonettes on the back are getting killed. So you're down to 2 Demonettes, or 1 Demonette doing its 2 attacks. That's the quick overview of the rules. It is a chariot. It is relatively fast, 12 inches movement. Now, Slaanesh get to attack first. I've mentioned this in every single video I've done because that's their core thing. They win initiative because they're so fast. And so they get that first attack. That gives them a total of 16 attacks, not including the lash, which is an extra d6 on top. So that's 16 close combat attacks. That's impressive. That's a huge amount of attacks going into one target. Downside is, well, upside is, and downside, they're all strength 4, so it's way better than anything the Imperial Guard are going to get. But for Space Marines, it's going to be on par with Space Marines. So they're all strength 4, and only the piercing claws get a -1 AP. So up against Space Marines, you're not going to be doing a huge amount of damage, even though you get your 16 dice. You're probably going to get 4 if you're really lucky. You're probably going to get four casualties, possibly 2 dead. That's really your best case. But all the same, it's pretty good. And you're not going to be sending this thing on its own. You're going to be sending in Seekers with it and stuff as well. So, but just bear in mind, it is one model and it does a huge amount of damage. So it's definitely worth it. So it's Ballistic Skill is 3+. That's just for the use of the Lashes of Torment. That's the whips. Strength of 4, toughness of 5. It is not tough at all. It can get wounded quite easily. It's got the same toughness as a normal Plague Marine. So even though it's a war engine, it is not tough. It has very little in the way of armour. Well, the save roll is technically the armour, but for toughness, it's not that good. Its save roll is 4+, which is average. Just average. So you don't need, if you're taking this on, you could take it down with las rifles. If you're using my Imperial Guard, who are the Steel Legion, they can fire 4 rounds with their las rifles, which is a huge amount. 4? Is it 8 rounds? Can't remember. Anyway, a huge amount of rounds. Go look at the Steel Legion video. They can actually fire a massive amount of rounds. So you could bring this down with the las rifle quite easily. You need to roll 5s, but you're going to do that with that many dice firing. Bolters, anything like that is going to be pretty evens at taking it down, and any heavy weapons will be a waste against this target. I would not waste a las cannon or a melter or anything like that on this. I'd just use small arms to take it down. So if you're facing one of them, just use your small arms troops to nail this guy, because it's a waste using anything else. Although something like a Nova Cannon would be pretty good. that would probably kill it. So yeah, you don't worry about using heavy weapons against it. Just light weapons, you'll be able to kill it quite easy. But if it's your model, then it is fast, it gets in there, it attacks. Don't be afraid of using it. Get it in as fast as possible, because it will die. I know it has its special wounds and everything. It has 10 wounds, plus you've got a couple of other characters that can give replace lost wounds and things like that to demonettes. But don't worry about that. Chances are this thing's going to die in the second turn. So get it in as fast as possible. And after all, it is a bullet magnet, because it looks scary, it's big, people are going to notice it, and they're probably going to shoot at this first. So get it in as fast as you possibly can. It will die, doesn't matter, you're going to do a huge amount of damage with it. As long as it's in combat, you're going to do massive damage. So that's it, don't waste it, just throw it in, get it done, that's it. That's my advice for using it anyway. Not that I'd be using it, because it isn't mine, it's my wife's, so she'll be using it. You like spiky things, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's roughly an overview of the entire Chariot. Upside is it is a heavy support choice, not a fast attack choice. Now, I'd have thought this was a fast attack choice. Our Slaanesh army has a large amount of fast attack options. It's got Seekers for the demons and things like that, and it's got Fiends, and it's got Chaos Space Marine Bikers, so it's got fast attack options. But this doesn't take one of them up. It actually takes up a heavy support choice, which is great because she hasn't really invested in much in the way of heavy support. So you can get several of these in the heavy support slots and use it as fast attack. That's weird. That's weird. Although the older book I've got, this was classed as a fast attack choice, which is 7th edition. 7th, or is it? Yeah, 7th edition, which is where they brought in the army templates. This was actually a fast attack choice for that, but now it's heavy support. I don't know. I'm just going to go and sit in a darkened room and think about it for a while. So that's it. That's the video. This is the model. I'll put a slideshow at the end, giving you some pictures of it. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Imperator Vespasian. Comments and everything in the lower bar and all that stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.